did not play any role, SC. I was relaying the information as I was receiving.
So you were just forwarding what you got from Nico to Sergeant Nkosi?
That's correct, SC.
But Nico was already dealing directly with Becky. I mean, Becky had asked Nico to help him on this case.
SC, as you could see that Nkosi will continuously sometimes send me information to check and verify. I'll do so. And I'll verify, then I'll relay back the information to Sergeant Nkosi.
But why were you in this loop? I mean, this is on your version, this is a tender for an MADLANGA municipality that Ngapashe is bidding for. What does it have to do with you? I
indicated earlier on that I raised Nkosi. I took interest from him since '97 when he started working at the yard. So he'll continuously sometimes ask for me to intervene and assist.
But he and his brother have a series of pending bids before the city at this point that you're aware of. In TMPD 1 and TMPD 3, they have Ngapashe as a bidder.
I'm aware about it, SC.
Did you not think it was inappropriate for you to be assisting Ngapashe in another bid?
As I indicated earlier on, that when Sergeant Nkosi approached me, I referred him to Nico for assistance because I did not want to assist him.
Well then, why when Nico approaches you, do you not say to Nico, deal directly with Sergeant Nkosi, deal directly with Becky?
The issue of sometimes being convenient, speaking to someone, SC, you can't rule it out to say you'll just chase someone who's want to either feel comfortable or confide with you better and feel that if he has spoken to you, you'll be able to assist or intervene.
But do you not see it as inappropriate for you to be assisting Ngapashe in tenders at the same time as they are bidding for tenders from the city?
I did not personally assist it, SC. I have the capacity and the skills to do so, but I did not at this stage.
Yes, but you're acting as the conduit between Ngapashe and Nico.
I'm not a conduit. I indicated that I had a relationship with Sergeant Nkosi that backdates, some years back.
Yes, but you are factually acting as a conduit between Sergeant Nkosi or Ngapashe and Nico. When Sergeant Nkosi wants Nico to do something in relation to Ngapashe, he asks you. When Nico wants documents to go back to Sergeant Nkosi and Becky, he gives them to you.
I don't agree, SC.
Well,
what do you understand by conduit, Deputy Chief?
A conduit, Commissioner, it's like a three-way of communication, of which I'm not. I have a personal relationship with Sergeant Nkosi that I indicated.
That does not focus on conduit. There may be a three-way communication, but without any one of the three people being a conduit. So you've not answered the question. What do you understand a conduit to be?
Much as I'm indicating, Commissioner, that a conduit is like, someone who act between two people. And in this instance, I was not acting between Peggy and Peggy because I have a personal relationship that was built some years back with Sergeant Nkosi.
A conduit is either a person or a thing through which something, it may be communication, passes between two other people without that person, the one through whom the information or whatever else passes, being personally involved in what is happening between the two destinations. It just passes through. That person or thing are used merely for purposes of whatever it is that passes through, to pass through. So it's just for purposes of it passing through. In this communication, or in what was happening here, according to what you say, you were exactly that, a conduit. You were passing information to Sergeant Kosi from Nico, and you would also pass information from Sergeant Kosi to Nico. So according to you, you were actually a conduit. So I don't understand why you say no when Mr. Shaskalson is asking you why you were a conduit. So I don't understand your denial. With the explanation I've given, unless you say I'm wrong in my explanation. So with the explanation I have given, can you now answer the question by Mr. Shaskalson? Why were you a conduit?
Commissioner,
When Nico could have communicated directly with Becky or with Sergeant Kosi for that matter, why were you a conduit?
I still don't agree, Commissioner. We maintain different levels of relationship with both people that I maintain with Sergeant Kosi and Nico. So if someone will prefer to speak to me to either engage someone. So that I don't think I'm a conduit, Commissioner.
Were you playing any role other than just passing the information from this point to the other point and vice versa? Were you playing any active role?
I will intervene if there's misunderstanding. Sergeant Kosi will request me to say perhaps intervene, then I'll intervene in that instance.
Did that happen all the time, or would it happen only on odd occasions? There is the need for you to intervene.
It was not on all occasions.
So for the most part, you were just passing information between the two, for the most part, correct?
He'll communicate something, I'll communicate to Nico.
Can you please answer the question directly? So for the most part, you were merely passing information between the two, correct?
I'm not sure about that, Commissioner.
No. Why not? Why not? You have said it would only be on the odd occasion that you would have to personally intervene. So if that was the case, surely what you did for the most part would be merely to pass information between the two. Not so. If you say not, then explain what else or what more you did.
Commissioner, I've explained that I hold different relationship with both
No, I've
parties.
heard that. I have that.
Yes.
That has nothing to do with my question, Deputy Chief. That has nothing to do with my question. My question is it not so that for the most part, you pass information from the one to the other?
That's correct, Commissioner.
That's enough for my purposes. Now, so which means for the most part, you were a conduit. If all you did was to pass information from the one to the, except for those few occasions or the odd occasion when you had to intervene. So for the most part, you were a conduit.
I don't agree, Commissioner, that I was a conduit.
In my language, I would say, I walis cause. I will leave it at that.
Thank you, Chair. But whether or not you accept that you were acting as a conduit, why were you playing any role in this? Why were you not telling Sergeant Nkosi and Becky on the one side and Nico on the other side to deal with each other directly and not to draw you into this process?
In any life situation, SC, you'll sometimes become, a role model to other people. They'll put their trust in you. So you wouldn't dismiss, someone that, you feel, you can assist.
So you are assisting Ngapashaya because you because Sergeant Nkosi is your role, that you are Sergeant Nkosi's role model? Is that your answer? You don't want to disappoint him because you're his role model?
I'm not assisting Apeshaya. I've referred Sergeant Nkosi to Nico Matovela to assist him.
Yes, but you're keeping yourself in the picture. You're not, you've referred them to Nico months ago, and you're still being the person who passes Nico's messages to Ngapashea and who passes Sergeant Nkosi's messages to Nico. You're staying involved. Why are you staying involved?
Much as I indicated, I have a relationship with Sergeant Nkosi. I nurtured him and I'll take interest in helping him.
How are you helping him in this regard if you're not helping Ngapashea?
I'm not helping Apeshaya as I indicated. I could have assisted Apeshaya with the skills and the capacity that I have, but I chose to refer them to Nico Matovela to assist them.
But you just said that you are keeping yourself in the picture, or you're not removing yourself from the picture because you're helping Sergeant Nkosi. How are you helping him?
Yes, SC, Sergeant Nkosi will come to me for intervention, then I'll intervene where there's a need.
Mr. Dlamini, the question is, you say you were helping Sergeant Nkosi. The question is, in this tender, how are you helping him? What is it that you are doing that is to help Sergeant Nkosi?
Commissioner, I indicated initially in my statement that I referred Sergeant Nkosi. When he came to me, I refused because he wanted me to assist Peggy Direct. I said I can't. I referred him to Nico Matovela for assistance. And sometimes they will have that misunderstanding where Sergeant Nkosi will come to me and request intervention, or Nico will say, pass this information to Sergeant Nkosi. That's what I will do.
Yeah, well, maybe for now, let's limit it to these documents and this information that you are passing on to Sergeant Nkosi. Let's limit it to that. How is that to help Sergeant Nkosi? It's a Ngapeshea tender. You say in Mpumalanga, it's Ngapeshea. When you are sharing this information that you are passing on from Nico to Sergeant Nkosi in relation to a Ngapeshea tender, how is that to help Sergeant Nkosi?
He inquired, Commissioner. I gave him information to say, Nico indicate to say this document, he had them in his desk and he is addressing them because Sergeant Nkosi, raised that matter of, documents that, they need to be completed.
Yes, Mr. Chaskasan.
Deputy Chief, before we leave this topic, I just want to take you to a document which supports your argument that this tender did not relate to TMPD-1. It was not TMPD-1. It's the document on page 536. And you see it's a letter of good standing issued by the Private Sector Industry Regulation Authority, PSIRA.
Are you going to make it bigger, please?
Yes.
You'll see that the date it was issued on its face is 6 February 2025. You see it?
I'd agree to that, but yes.
And that it was certified by the South African Police Service in Soshanguve on the 20th of February 2025.
Yes.
Now, those dates after the submission date of TMPD1. TMPD1 had a deadline of October 2024.
That's correct.
So on the face of this document could not be a document that was submitted as part of the bid for TMPD1, because it was only created on its face in February 2025. You see that?
I see that, I see.
So I'm putting that document to you because it does support your evidence that these documents that you were exchanging between, or that you're passing from Nico to Sergeant and Corsi, did not relate to TMPD1.
Yes, I see.
Mr. Chaskalson, can I ask you a question? It's not for the witness. Are we, as the commission, able to get the full set of documents of Ngapeshea that were assessed by the BEC for the purposes of TMPD1? Because while what you're saying is possible, it may also be that in fact, what was done was that this very document was submitted long after the closing date, and those who assessed the bid relied on this document as proof of good standing. So there are multiple possibilities here.
There are, and we will attempt to get the full set of documents for the bid. We have.
Yeah. Okay, can I ask Deputy Chief Dlamini? This municipality in Mpumalanga, I mean, it's only 11 months ago when these chairs were exchanged between you and Sergeant Nkosi. Surely it should not be difficult to establish which municipality Ngapeshea was dealing with for the purposes of what we are discussing now, and whether in fact that municipality ever had a tender out, and whether Ngapeshea ever responded to that invitation to bid.
Yes, Commissioner, I think that perhaps the CFO will be able to assist on that because he was the one who was assisting them.
No, unfortunately, the CFO was not able to assist. And the name that Sergeant Nkosi gave us, the Matthews Poster municipality, the Commission has established that such a municipality does not exist. So we're not talking about 10 years ago, we're talking about 11 months ago. I mean, surely one of you should remember which municipality was, but all you are giving us at this stage is a province to say it was in Mpumalanga. But if you are more specific and you say that municipality had a tender out, and it was that municipality that invited bids, and it was in respect of that bid that Ngapeshea submitted a bid, then we will be able to close this line of inquiry once and for all.
I will verify with Nico, Commissioner, which one was specifically dealing with.
Are you able to do that during the tea break?
I will do so.
Thank you.
What might also be helpful, perhaps as you verify, is that if you look at page 538, the very last item relates to rates and taxes as some of the information that was missing that needed to be included. So item 12 is rates and taxes. It says company is in arrears and there is no list. And then it says directors' rates and taxes are not attached. That would suggest an address of Ngapeshea in that area, in that jurisdiction where that tender belongs, and the address of the director. So if you have Ngapeshea's address in that municipality where that tender, in the jurisdiction of that municipality, where this tender you say was for, then it should help you with identifying the municipality. You understand what I'm saying?
I understand you, Commissioner.
Okay.
But I think that might be difficult for me to do that. It will require either Peggy or someone. I'll ask Nico if he has that.
Yeah, well, this is not just a question to Nico. I think Peggy can answer the question. He either has an address, and his company has an address in that municipality, in the jurisdiction of that municipality, or he doesn't have.
I'm not sure,
So
Commissioner.
it should be easy to verify.
Much as I indicate, the person that I'll be able to talk to is Nico. I'll ask him about which tender was this one.
Okay. Well, I'm suggesting to you that you should be able to speak to Peggy as well, because you're assisting him with this tender.
I was not helping him, Commissioner, with this tender.
All right. Hear what you come back with.
Can we leave this tender for now and then go to TMPD 3? And before we get to your involvement in relation to TMPD, I just want to sketch the timetable of TMPD 3 that we've established through the CFO. The timetable for TMPD was that the bid was advertised on the 12th of August 2024. If you can just take these dates down. This was the evidence of the CFO. The closing date was 21 February 2025. The first meeting of the BEC was 24 March 2025. The BEC recommended an award on either 28 May or 29 May. The minute of the meeting recommending the award is dated 28 May. The score sheets are dated 29 May. The BAC resolved to cancel the tender on 23 October. So that's the chronology. Now, your involvement that we want to look at starts on page 437. And on the 25th of March, 2025, page 437 of file 4, you send to Sergeant Nkosi a draft BEC report on this tender. It's 25 March, and it runs from page 437 all the way down to page 439. And the document that you sent is actually attached as an annexure from page 511. And it may be, well, it runs from page 511 all the way through to page 524. Why did you send that document to Sergeant Nkosi on 25 March?
Sergeant Nkosi requested me to send him, a list of companies on that day, and I requested my office to download it for me on the web. Unfortunately, the website was off for the city of Tshwane. Then they requested from supply chain management if they have a list of bidders. Then they were also told that the website is still off. Then they provided them with this draft admin report. It's not a BEC report, SC. It's a draft report that they are preparing, a closeout report that they usually put on the website. So it's not a BEC report.
Well, you say it is a closeout report that they normally put on the website.
That's correct, SC.
What they normally put on the website, and you've attached that in your additional documents is the just the list of bidders. It's a separate document. So if you go to file 5, page 67, you'll see the list of bidders for TMPD3 that you can access from the website. And your evidence on Friday was that is the document that you will get if you go onto the website and click the tab that says Tender Bid Register. And that screen you've attached as one of your additional documents on page 36 of file 5.
That's correct, SC.
So the document that you sent is not the tender bid register that everyone has access to. It's a draft administrative report that the public doesn't have access to.
SC, when documents get received, what it's prepared by the admin, it's what you see on from page 67 that I've attached to show, to say it's up to page, the last page of this document, up to page 88. And this was already on the web. The website was off when they've already loaded this document on the web. If you can check, the tender closed on the 12th of August, as you indicated. This was already out there on the web when I forwarded it to Sergeant Kosi in March. The challenge was that the website was off. Then my office requested SCM, they gave them this draft admin report. It's what they are using to prepare the close-out report before they can load it on the system. So it's not a BEC report.
Okay, let's call it the draft administrative report.
Yes.
Who prepares it?
SCM, there's admin. When tender closed, there's admin staff that do that, which they hand it together with all the documents to the BEC for them to commence their work. They need a close-out report of all the bidders that have bid together with the tender document.
So it's a report that's prepared for the BEC.
Correct.
And what this is a draft of a report that is being prepared for the BEC.
They were preparing a close-out report, so much as they made draft admin reports before they complete it to be this close-out report that goes on the website.
No, the closeout report doesn't go on the website. What goes on the website is the document that we see at
67?
page
67? Not that.
at page 67, which is accessed from from the link at page 36, the tender bid register.
It is the close-out report.
No, the documents are different. If you look at the document at page 67, it is just a list of bidders and prices.
Yes.
Go.
You can continue, sorry.
So if you go to the end of the document at page 67, you will see that it ends with the last bidder. You see it says total number 435. There is a stamp at page 88, and that is the document that one can access from the website.
Yes.
Did you agree? I did not hear your response.
I'm
Deputy
saying this draft report, Commissioner SC, when they register the bids, they use this draft admin report to prepare this close-out report that they load on the work. It's a working document. By the day I wanted to access the close-out report, the system was off. Then they requested, my officer requested from supply chain, they provided with them because the information contained on this draft is the information that they're gonna access on the web.
What gets uploaded? Is it the document starting at page 67 through to 88?
Yes.
That is a different document from the document that you sent to Sergeant Nkosi. What you sent to Sergeant Nkosi was not the bid register that you can access from the web, but it was a draft of a closeout report being prepared for the BEC.
That's correct, SC, as I indicated to say that day the website was off, then they requested the report, the close-out report, they were provided with this draft admin report because it contains the same information that was gonna be accessed on there. It's not a confidential document, it's not a BEC report.
Can I, that's not the version that you gave in your statement. If you go to page 10 of your statement in file 1, do you have it?
Yes, SC.
There you'll see in paragraph 50, you say in response to a question, the reason or purpose of your discussions of procurement matters with Sergeant Nkosi, you say, Sergeant Nkosi requested assistance with lists of bidders. We did not have any discussions on procurement matters. I have shared the 2 documents with him, which are administrative records brackets closing reports relating to bids and their pricing, which are available public documents. So what you said in your answer was that the document that you sent to him was an available public document. But it's not an available public document. It's a document that you managed to source from procurement.
Correct, SC, but the information that it's contained in that document, it's available in the web. The challenge, we could not access the website on that day. So the same information that it's in the draft admin report, it's what was in the website.
And let's go again on page 11, paragraph 56. You repeat the earlier explanation. I haven't discussed matters relating to procurement of the city of Tshwane with Sergeant Nkosi. I merely provided him with administrative documents as he requested. See paragraph 50. The said materials are public documents. Now that's not true, is it? They're not public documents, what you gave to Sergeant Nkosi.
They are SC. It's just the format of that one that was provided is that, they knew that it's already in the system. We could not access the system on that particular day, so it doesn't change the content of that information.
Deputy Chief, the document at 511, in so many words, says draft. You see that.
I see that, Commissioner.
511 of file, or you do see it. Surely a draft is meant to be a final document at some stage, correct?
Correct, Commissioner.
And whilst it is a draft, surely it's a document that is still being worked on within the Metro, correct?
Correct, Commissioner.
So if at any stage it is to be public, it will only be public once it's final, correct?
It's correct, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Can I just
Can,
ask a
can
question?
I
Please
explain
explain, and then I will
Yes.
ask my question.
To say, I mean, on the 25th of March, Commissioner, I indicated to say, this document was already loaded on the system. It closed on the 12th of August, this tender. It was already available in the system. The issue was access to the system when they provided this document to say the information that it's contained, when they prepare this, they have this draft, but the information contained will be there on the system,
What do you mean by system?
the website.
So a draft was on the website?
No, the final one was already loaded
No,
on
I've
the
been
website.
engaging you on the draft and not on a final document, from beginning to end. I was engaging you on the draft and whether a draft would be made public, and you said not. And you said what would be made final would be the final document if it were meant to go public at all.
Deputy Chief, if Sergeant Nkosi had called the SCM office and asked for this draft report, would they have given it to him?
I believe so, Commissioner. From the first day when the tender closed, if you request this information of bidders, if it's readily available, they'll provide it to you.
No, I'm not asking about the list of bidders. I'm asking about the draft administration report. If Sergeant Nkosi had asked SCM for the draft administration report, would they have given it to him?
Commissioner, he was gonna ask for a list of bidders, and yes,
That's exactly my point.
I believe they could have provided him with, because it was already loaded on the website. The tenderers were already there, their pricing and everything.
So they would have given him a document that includes paragraphs 2, 3, and 4 that you see on page 524. They would have given him that information. So ignore paragraph 1 because that's the list of bidders. And we know that it's 435 of them. If you go to page 524, are you on 524?
Yes, Commissioner.
SCM would have given that information to Sergeant Nkosi. Paragraph 2.1, paragraph 3, paragraph 4, paragraph 4.1.
I believe so, Commissioner, because there's nothing confidential in this document.
Okay.
Remember, it was said I shared confidential document with Sergeant Nkosi, and I wanted to indicate that there was nothing confidential that I shared with Sergeant Nkosi.
Thank you.
Deputy Commissioner, perhaps forget for now the confidential part of this information. The question that is being put to you is whether this document that we see at page 511, not forget the information, this document, because you sent this document to Sergeant Nkosi, was this document that starts at page 511 on the website and therefore accessible to the public as it is on the day that you sent it to Sergeant Nkosi? Was this publicly available document?
Commissioner, the document that was already loaded on the website, it's as I attached on file 5, is the same, the names of companies with their pricing and everything. It was already on the website, not the document as it is.
So the document at 5, that starts at 511, was not available on the website, was not available to the public. It wasn't on the website available to the public, the document that starts at 511.
Correct, Commissioner.
Thank you.
So just one last one, I'm sorry, Mr. Shaskarsan. Something related to what Commissioner Kumalo asked you. You seem, on my understanding, you seem to equate this document starting at 511 with just a list of bidders. Do I understand you correctly?
Correct, Commissioner.
And to you, that's all it is and nothing more, just a list of bidders.
Correct, Commissioner.
Let me take you where Commissioner Kumalo took you, which is 524. And look at number 4 towards the foot of the page. And the heading there says disqualification due to non-registration on CSD. And it says joint venture CSD. I understand that to be dealing with what entity or entities were disqualified. Do you understand it the same way?
No, Commissioner. It's a standard form that they use when they are capturing. So there's no company that it's listed here which was disqualified. It's just a standard form that they will follow.
But that document is meant to deal with it, not so. Even if at this stage they may not have written in any entity, but that's what the document is meant to deal with.
Yes, a standard form for inputting when they do the evaluation.
And the entry just below that, the following 435 bidders were evaluated on pre-compliance. I guess on that as well, you'll say that's just standard form.
Yes, Commissioner.
But by the time this document is finalized, everything has been entered. There will be some information on there, correct?
As soon as the BEC has completed its report or something, they will be able to evaluate. But this way, they have not done anything.
All right, thank you. Yes, Mr. Shaskalsi.
Now, you say that the document at file 5, page 67, was already on the website.
That's correct, SC.
So if you wanted to give that document to Sergeant and Corsi, you could have got that document from supply chain management, could you not?
The website was off, SC.
Yes, but the website uploads documents that somebody else has created from within supply chain management.
They couldn't get it, SC.
They couldn't get it off the website or from the person who had created it?
Yes, SC.
Which?
From the website and from someone who was supposed to assist.
Who are you asking for this, for these documents?
I requested my office to request. I'm not sure who assisted them in this regard, SC.
And what did you ask your office to request?
To request for a bidders register.
But why did you need to ask your office to request the bid register? Or did you know that the website was down when you asked them to request the bid register?
Correct, SC.
So you knew the website was down and you asked your office to find the bid register?
Correct.
Who in your office did you ask?
I requested, I think it was, I'm not sure whether it was Itumeleng or it was Dokas who helped in that regard.
To find the bid register?
Yes.
And they reported to you that they couldn't find the bid register?
Correct.
But that somebody in supply chain management had given them a draft report?
Correct.
Did they say who had given them the draft report?
I never asked that, SC.
But you'd asked for a bid register and you got back a draft report?
Correct, SC.
And you didn't, you thought you would just give Sergeant Nkosi the draft report?
Correct, SC.
Why was it necessary to give Sergeant Nkosi the draft report? Why couldn't he, like everybody else, wait for the bid register to become available?
I believe SC, he requested information on tender, on bidders and their code, and this was the information that was shared. So it's the same as to the information that he will receive as soon as, if the website was on.
But why shouldn't he just wait like everybody else who has to wait until the website comes back up?
I can't tell on that one.
No, you can tell, because you were the one who chose to give him a document that isn't a public document and that he hadn't requested for on your version.
When he wanted it, he requested me. Yes, you are correct. Then this is what I could access. They could provide me with. I gave it to him because that's what he requested. And I saw no harm because the same information, it's not a confidential information, it's information that it's already loaded on the website.
Yes, but nobody else who could get access to that information at that time because the website was down.
Correct, the website was down, SC, but there was no harm in sharing the same information that he was gonna get later on.
What role did you have to play in this procurement process? Why was it appropriate for Sergeant Nkosi to ask you for lists of bidders?
I did not play any role, SC.
So any other bidder would have to deal with the procurement office and someone who did play a role in the tender.
Beg your pardon?
Any other bidder, any one of the other 435, if they wanted this list, would have to ask someone in the procurement officer for the tender register, and they would be told, the website is down, we can't find it, you'll have to wait.
I'm not sure about it, SC.
But Sergeant Nkosi had lied to you, and you had lied to the tender, to the procurement department to get the draft report. Is that not how it happened?
That's what transpired, but it's not like he was getting any favor, SC.
Well, he was getting a favor. He was getting information that nobody else could get. Nobody else could get the draft report. They had to wait until the website came back up and they could get a register of tenders.
I'm not sure who else could have asked the information. I believe they're gonna provide it to him, SC.
What did you tell the procurement office in relation to your request for this information?
As I indicated, I requested my office to get it for me.
To get what?
The bid register.
Yes, but that wasn't your version. Sorry. They asked for the bid register. Did they say why they needed the bid register?
I'm not sure what did they tell them. Why did they want the bid register?
But why would your office be looking for bid registers from procurement? What role does your office have to deal with bids and to be looking for bid registers?
It's because I requested them to ask it, and it's a public document, SC.
Deputy Commissioner, the tender, when it is advertised, it has a reference. It gives a name of a contact person. Now, you have told us that in respect of TMPD 1, you couldn't assist Sergeant Nkosi. You referred him to Nico. Why did you not refer him to the person at SCM who is the contact person for this bid?
Commissioner, he requested me to assist Peggy with compiling a tender document. I could not do that.
Yes, now he's asking you to give him information about bidders. In fact, your evidence was that he wanted to know whether his brother had submitted a tender. That's what you said. And if he asked you that question and then you went and got the register or the document that we've discussed earlier, my question is why you are not involved in SCM, your office is not involved in SCM. Why do you not refer him to the contact person at SCM to give him this publicly, what you say is publicly available information in an ongoing bid process? Why do you insert yourself improperly in an ongoing bid process when there are processes? There is a protocol relating to this tender, and the protocol is that there is a contact person. Nobody else should be getting involved with information relating to this tender. Why did you not say to Sergeant Nkosi, here's the person, speak to them?
Commissioner, I think he requested it from me as someone that he knows as a brother and so forth. I did not see any harm providing him with that information.
You did not see any harm sharing information in an ongoing tender process which you are not part of. Your office is not part of it at all. You did not see any harm in getting involved that way.
That's correct, Commissioner, because the information I shared was already a public information in the website.
No, we have established from your answer that the information that you shared at page 511 was not publicly available. You've said that. You've accepted that document, because that's a document you shared. You didn't just write down a list of the 435 bidders. That's not what you did. What you did is you went into the system and got a City of Tshwane document that you agree was not available to the public, the document at 511. It wasn't available to the public, and you shared that with him. So please do not repeat that document at 511 was available to the public. It wasn't. You've settled that in your earlier answer. You go into the system, you pull out an internal document that is at 511, which contains information in an ongoing tender process, which you personally and your office are not part of. When there is a person who's in charge of that information that you could have referred Sergeant Nkosi to get that information, and the question is, why did you not do that? I know he asked you, so the answer cannot be because he asked me to help him. We know that's what he did. I'm asking a different question to you. Why did you not direct him to the person designated for that purpose when he asked you to help him?
Commissioner, I think we indicated to say Sergeant Nkosi is like a brother to me, and I took interest on him.
Okay, I have to stop you. I have to stop you. You've said that repeatedly. It doesn't answer my question, so please don't repeat it, and I'll hand back to Mr. Chaskalson. Thank you.
Do you recall your evidence yesterday about Mr. Mampani? That he is...
On Friday.
Sorry, on Friday. That Mr. Mampani is a taxi industry businessman, and that he is the son of a Mr. Mampani with whom your late brothers worked.
Correct.
Now, the evidence of Sergeant Nkosi was that on 30 April, that's a month, just over a month after he got this report, this draft report from you, he forwarded it to Mr. Mampani Were you aware of this?
I was not aware of it.
And Mr. Mampani's response to receiving this draft list from him was, Buti, please let him say no to that appointment. Buti, please let him say no to that appointment. Did Sergeant Nkosi ever talk to you about TMPD 3 again?
No, SC.
Did that not strike you as strange?
No.
He'd asked you for a list of bidders. Had he not?
It was not strange, SC.
Why was it not strange? He talked to you extensively in relation to TMPD 1.
He never spoke to me about it, and I don't see it as being strange. And as I indicated earlier on, even on TMPD 1, I was just assisting him. He never spoke to me.
No, you did speak to him in relation to TMPD 1. You exchanged many texts and you had many voice calls to clarify those texts.
And that's what he requested, SC, and I never made a follow-up with him as to what is happening, SC, with that. He requested.
But your evidence is that despite the fact that you exchanged many texts in relation to TMPD 1 and calls to clarify those texts, you didn't speak at all in relation to TMPD 3.
No.
Do you know what happened to TMPD 3?
Yes, I know that TMPD 3 was later on cancelled, as the CFO also indicated when he testified.
And what is the situation now in relation to the services that ought to have been provided by under TMPD 3?
I think it was indicated, SC, that there is an extension that was granted for the current service providers.
And those current service providers are the providers who are appointed to the tender, which I think is tender 1 of 2016-2017. Is that correct?
Not sure if it's 2016 or what.
It's certainly from the previous decade, is it not, the tender? It's from the 2010s, it's not from the 2020s.
No, I think it's from the 2020s.
No, it's definitely from the 2010s, the tender.
Mr. Skalson, I think the confusion here is there was that 2021 court order.
Yes.
And those service providers were appointed
On a court
pursuant
order.
to that court order. And that's where I think the misalignment between you and the Deputy Chief is.
Yes, but the tender itself, pursuant to which they were appointed, is a tender from the previous decade.
Not decade, Commissioner, SC.
Sorry, I didn't hear that answer.
I'm saying it's not decade, SC.
No, it is. We've seen the evidence.
I don't think so.
On what basis do you say you don't think so?
As I indicated, either it might be 21-22 financial year because it only ended in February 2025. So
Yeah, that was the appointment pursuant to a court order in 2021.
They started, yes, either 2022 because the 3-year ended on the 28th of February 2025.
But the tender itself, pursuant to which those bidders were appointed, was a tender from the previous decade. It was 2016-17, I think.
That's not true, SC.
Mr. Skalson, it's the issue of language. I'm sorry to do this. When it was originally advertised, it was 2016-2017. When it was eventually awarded, it was pursuant to the court order sometime in 2021.
That's when
and then they started in 2022 for 3 years ending in 2025.
Correct.
But you're talking about the same tender. Your start point is the court order. Mr. Chaskalson's start point is when it was first advertised.
But they were not working at that time.
Yes.
Yes.
Because they only started working after they were appointed pursuant to the court order. And they were issued those letters that said, because of the court order, all 22 of you will be appointed.
From 2022.
Yes.
Yes.
But it was advertised for the first time, 2016, 2017.
I'll verify that. It might be correct that it was advertised prior.
You can assume from our side that it was advertised in 2016, 2017. What would flow from that is that the specifications that were requested were specifications that were drawn up at the very latest in 2016. You accept that? If the tender was advertised in 2016, 17, the specifications couldn't have been drawn up before, after 2016.
That's correct, I see.
Now, have the specifications for these sorts of services remained constant? Have the city's needs for these sorts of services remained constant over the last 10 years?
I'm not sure about that.
Are the city's needs for ad hoc security services today identical to what they were 10 years ago?
The city's needs change gradually, can change, within a month and so forth. They might build a clinic, so it will change gradually.
And over 10 years, will there be some substantial change?
Definitely. The assets of the city, increase.
So will you accept that the result of the cancellation of this tender is that service providers who are providing the services are providing those services in terms of specifications which are now out of date because they are specifications that are 10 years old?
I'm not sure about that, SC, because specifications that relates either to a tender for washman services. If they need an armed guard and so forth, they need the following things on their side. They will remain, I think, the same.
So you're saying that the specifications will not have changed over 10 years?
Yes, the portfolio of the assets might have changed, but the specifications might remain. You'll find the current tender that was advertised, when you look at it with the previous one, might find the specifications being the same.
Have you yourself compared them?
I haven't.
So you're speculating at this point?
Yes.
Can we move to a different topic, which is the invoices that were paid on the process to pay invoices on the 5th and 6th of March 2025. And there we should go to page 426. And you'll see at the foot of page 426, in chat number 8, that at 9:46 in the morning, the Sergeant Nkosi sends you a screenshot of a conversation that he's having with the CFO, and that screenshot is at page 503. And if you go to the bottom of 503, you'll see that the CFO has asked Sergeant Nkosi, Mpuetu is General winning? And Sergeant Nkosi has responded, morning, my brother, I'm onto him. And that screenshot got sent to you at 10 o'clock that we see in, at 9:48 that we see at the foot of the page. And then at 10 o'clock on page 504, we see a second screenshot that Sergeant Nkosi sends you, which is his response. Morning, my brother, I'm on to him. He confirmed it will be sorted now. He'll give feedback soon before 12 o'clock. And the CFO has responded at 9:55 saying, okay, it's not yet in my system. Your response to both of these screenshots is sharp, Captain. Can you just remind us again what is taking place here? What are these exchanges relating to? Why is Sergeant Nkosi forwarding you his chats with the CFO?
As I indicated that on the 4th of March, I received a call from Sergeant Nkosi, who was with the CFO, and the CFO spoke to me about outstanding payments that was owed to 3 service providers for a period of, 6 months or so. He requested my intervention to go and investigate and assist in ensuring that we sort out the matter. And on the 5th of April, then I checked with my office. Indeed, there were outstanding payments for a period of 6 months that were not paid to the service provider, as the CFO indicated that they were threatening to go to court, and he requested my intervention in that regard.
Can we go back to your evidence on Friday in relation to how the system should work? Correct. And how the system should work is that for these sorts of ad hoc services, you know what the price per guard is. And so when you get a request from a user department, say electricity, sorry, you're nodding. Can I just ask you for the record to say yes as it goes on? So you know what the contract with the service provider says in relation to rates.
That's correct, SC.
So you have a fixed rate that you will apply when you use that service provider.
That's correct.
When you get a request from a user department, and we use the example of electricity, for some guards to guard a power station that they would be working on, you know how many guards you're going to need and for how long.
Correct.
You then look at the general ledger to see if there is money provided for 2 guards 24 hours a day for 2 weeks, which is what the electricity department wants. And if there is, you authorize the deployment of the guards and you issue a purchase order.
That's correct.
The guards then are provided by the private company with whom you have the contract. They do the work. And at the end of that process, the company invoices.
That's correct.
And the invoice matches what your purchase order has provided for, because you have your purchase order authorized 2 guards 24 hours a day, 2 weeks.
That's correct. I see.
And then once you have the purchase order in place at the beginning and the invoice that's issued after the work is done, you check whether the work was in fact done. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And if the work was in fact done, you then authorize payment pursuant to, in accordance with the purchase order that was issued at the start of the process.
That's correct.
So how can you find yourself in a situation that you are describing now, where there are a whole lot of invoices that have been issued and have not been paid, and for which it seems there are no purchase orders? That's a question. How do you find yourself in that situation?
I think let me indicate to say, one, as it was indicated here, to say the question of, deployment of guards, it falls precisely under APSS, and by then it was overseen by DC Boleys. One, they allow a service provider to continue providing services for a period of 6 months. DC Boley says it just happened under his nose. There's coaching every quarter with the directors, where you check your budget, your everything. He could not pick it up the first quarter. He could not pick it up the second quarter to say there's expenditure taking place in his department that it's happening. They go to an extent of certifying services as being rendered for those service providers. They sign off invoices, certify them that services have been rendered, they received an invoice. Bring the invoices to my office for processing for payment. My office engaged with them to say, you were supposed, you know the procedure, that in the first instance you were supposed to ensure that, one, you liaise with the sister department around the GL, they provide you with a GL, you give us a GL account, we are able to create POs for those services that need to be rendered, because the department will indicate if it's water and sanitation or it's electricity, they'll indicate to say we need services for a period either of 3 months, we are refurbishing a substation or whatever the case it might be. That's the process that need to have taken place, that I think it was supposed to have been overseen by the director and the deputy chief concerned. They deploy service providers, they allow them to render services for 6 months. Then invoices are not paid. The services are still continuing. They have not terminated them for those months. Then I had to intervene in this instance, because as the CFO indicating that the service providers were contemplating to go to court, and in most instances they get granted and the city's account gets attached. It's not the same incident of such nature that transpire where the service providers will go to court to say due to non-payment they attach the city's account for non-payment. And I had to intervene to say, but services were rendered, they have been certified as such, because there's no dispute that services were rendered, and companies need to be paid to avoid, the city's account being attached. That's where my intervention came in this instance, to ensure that we pay those outstanding invoices, because the section concerned have certified to say services have been rendered and so forth. So we had to ensure that we make payment to those service providers that have worked to avoid court processes in that regard.
Well, let's go back to the start of the process. One of the invoices that gets paid is an invoice from July 2024.
Correct.
So an invoice has been issued in July 2024 to the city, claiming payment for services rendered.
Correct.
What was the backstory to that invoice? Was there a purchase order for that invoice before the service provider was put on site?
No POs were generated by then.
So how was it possible for the service provider to be deployed to site without a peer? Who did that?
They were deployed within APSS. I think the director there will be able to respond to that, Director Malachi, because he's the one who's overseeing those services.
So Director Malachi should not have deployed those service providers to site in July 2024 without first ensuring that there was a purchase order in place.
That's correct.
An invoice then comes in at the end of the month of July 2024. That invoice presumably goes to your department.
Correct.
What does your department do?
Accounts payable from my section, if services were certified as being done, they need to ensure that, they create requisitions, request SCM to create POs to ensure that, those invoices get processed. Remember, there's a policy in the city that invoices need to be processed within 30 days. And in this instance, much as I was indicating to say, invoices sit for a period of longer than 6 months without not being attended to.
But your department gets an invoice at the end of July 2024 for services which were ostensibly rendered, but in respect of which there is no purchase order. What does it do?
Much as I indicated, my section continuously engaged with the section from Director Malachi from the onset when they brought in those invoices to say, please, we need the following.
Well, there are two separate issues that I see. One is, were the services asked for and provided? If so, vis-a-vis an outsider, the city probably has to pay. The second issue is, why were city procedures not followed? Why wasn't a purchase order issued in advance of asking these people to provide the services? Let's take the first issue. It's July 2024. You get an invoice for services provided. There's no purchase order. What does your department do to establish whether or not it should pay this invoice?
As I indicated, these invoices came to my attention, to the accounts payables attention in February or so, when they were brought to them.
But in the ordinary course of events, if Gubis, as service provider to the city, issues an invoice in July 2024, what happens to that invoice? Why does, surely it must come to your department.
It goes to APSS. Remember, they must certify that services have been rendered. They must ensure that it's signed off, because we are not monitoring those security services. I'll give you a classical example. If the specifications of a tender says we need 2 armed guards on a site, the company don't post, either they post 1 armed guard, the other guard is not armed. If the tender has got what we call the penalty clause, they should be able to penalize it. So when they bring an invoice, it must come either, with those, penalty clause being, indicated to say they were penalized for it. So much as the section concerned must certify services as rendered, sign it off before it comes to accounts payable. Accounts payable's duty is to ensure that there's an invoice, the invoice is in order, there's an SLA in place for that particular service, the contract, its existence.
And purchase orders?
And there is also budget in that regard.
There's budget and there's a purchase order, or not? Do you have to look for a purchase order?
Correct. Remember, purchase orders, as I indicated, we get created each and every beginning of financial year. We look at the budget, we load it, get loaded, we create purchase orders for watchman services for the entire financial year.
And you're saying that in respect of these invoices, going back to, in fact, June 2024, but we'll deal with June separately, but let's take the ones from July 2024. The first that those invoices were forwarded to your department, you say, is February 2025.
Correct.
Who was at fault there?
I take the section concern, I think Director Malaji, because he was overseeing this, services. He's supposed to ensure that, on a monthly basis, at finance section, they want to say before the 10th of every month, all invoices. There's what we call, there's a meeting that deals specifically on a monthly basis with invoices, whereby they indicate to say this department has got, either 2 invoices outstanding for non-payment and so forth, where we report on a monthly basis, to monitor the UIFW, unauthorized irregular fruitless expenditure and so forth that we report on. There's a work stream that deal with that. The city also has established circular 113 meeting to ensure that, we avoid audit, negative audit queries, whereby there's also report on issues of invoices in that regard. And they said for the entire 6 months, no report, nothing is happening, to say there are these invoices, services have been rendered and so forth.
So let's stay with our July 2024 invoice. That invoice should have been forwarded to your department by 10 August 2024, if the system was followed.
The latest, before the 10th, we encourage that at least we receive invoices, or when it's month end, at least the latest, the 5th or so that we are able to accrue every invoice with finance.
But instead it was sent to your department more than 6 months overdue, that July 1.
Correct.
What steps were taken to hold anyone accountable for this?
No one was held accountable. It will be the thing of passing the buck, much as I'm indicating to say, we have monthly, quarterly coaching whereby these matters could have been picked up, dealt with. The risk also that was associated with these invoices. The contract was ending on February. If we could not have secured an extension for that 4 months, it means these invoices were not gonna be paid. People were gonna go to court and we were going to pay them on a court order because there will no longer be a contract to pay those invoices.
But hang on a minute. A contract normally ends at a given point. And in the last month of performance of the contract, services are performed.
Yes.
And you issue the service provider issues an invoice at the end of the performance of the services. But by the time the city gets the invoices, that invoice, the contract is no longer operative, but the invoice relates to a period when the contract was operative. So why is the end of the contract crucial in any respect?
It is crucial, SC, remember the last invoice, the contract, if it end of February, that will be the last invoice that will be accrued and be paid. So if there's no longer a contract in place, you will no longer be able to process those invoices because there's no contract in place, so it then requires you to generate a report in that regard. We had an instances, of a contract that ended, then it had to go a post facto issue, CCTV, which, I mean, it's under some form of investigation, that process. So once the contract ends, you won't be able to process an invoice because you need a contract to be in place.
So are you saying to me that the rush at this point was because the contract was due to expire at the end of February?
It was in March, SC. It was the extension was granted end of February. I'm just indicating to say these were gonna be the risk.
Yes, but by the time the rush was taking place on the 5th and 6th of March,
there was already an extension.
There was an extension for 3 months. 3 months or 4 months?
4 months,
4
up
months.
until June.
But my earlier question is, if someone is responsible for not following the city's systems and for not paying for not forwarding invoices to your department promptly when the invoices are issued by the service provider, why aren't they held to account?
I think the city, much as I'm saying, they've introduced these, measures, the UIFW and so forth, and the Circular 113. And that's where I think the CM has put his feet down to say it can't be business as usual. Consequence management need to take place for non-performance, to say you can't be sitting with an invoice which, end up, without being accrued at the end of financial year, the city then get, a finding around it.
But in this case, there were no consequences. There was no management of consequences. Nobody was held to account for sitting on invoices for 6 months.
In this instance, there was none, SC, that was taken.
But your evidence is that your department only received these invoices in February.
Correct.
Can we go to your message in chapter 4, also on page 427? Morning, Captain. Please just confirm for Mpueto Ukuti, I'm processing the issue. I've spoken to Kane and Vusi also to increase the target value, as the amount is a bit higher. And as soon as all of them are released, I will let you know for his intervention to ensure that Tommy makes payment urgently. You see that?
I see that, SC.
Kane is Kane and Mpofu in supply chain management.
Correct, SC.
Who is Vusi?
Vusi works within accounts payable, contract management within TMPD.
And Vusi's surname is?
Mabona.
And Tommy?
Tommy works at the budget office.
And his surname?
I'm not sure whose surname. Know him as Tommy. Sometimes you'll know the name or the surname of officials.
Okay, well, there can't be too many Tommies in the budget office.
Yes.
You say to increase the target value as the amount is a bit higher. What are you referring to then?
It's around increasing the contract value. Remember, as I said, we load, we do requisition, we do POs for the entire year. So it has got a value, the contract value for payment for that particular month. So you need to increase it to cover this shortfall.
And was that because the amounts that had been charged were in excess of the aggregate amount for the 6 months, or was it because suddenly you had to deal with 6 months worth of invoice in 1 month?
You have to deal with 6 months invoices for 1 month.
So the amounts in the previous months were just not touched at all?
No, you had to deal with 6 months invoices in a month, which now exceed the contract value for that particular month.
And what happens to the unspent amounts in the previous 6 months? Do they not roll forward or not?
No, you don't bring money forward. Remember that on a monthly basis, these were additional services that they've requested, the ad hoc. There's normal invoices for every month for watchman services.
Yes.
Yes. They were paid to.
Sorry, the normal services were paid?
Yes.
Yes. But the ad hoc provision that you have in your general ledger for these services, do you not roll it forward if it's not used?
No.
The exchanges with the CFO and with your through Sergeant and Corsi continue, and we see them all the way through pages 427 and 428. You've understood, you've explained to us why there was this need. So I don't want to take you to the substance of the payments. What I want to ask you is, why was Sergeant and Corsi involved in this process? Why were you not dealing direct with the CFO?
As indicated, I think the CFO indicated to say he saw Sergeant Corsi working, him working through Sergeant Corsi being the best way. He made Sergeant Corsi his extension to communicate with me. I think that's what transpired in this case.
But why did you participate in that arrangement that way? You're dealing with city business between yourself, the Deputy Chief of TMPD, and the CFO. Why is there any need for, well, one, why is there any need for Sergeant and Corsi to get involved? And two, why is it appropriate for Sergeant and Corsi to get involved? So first, is there any need for Sergeant and Corsi to get involved? Could you not have done this directly with the CFO?
As I indicate to say, I mean, CFO saw it fit that he must use Sergeant Corsi to communicate with me. He made Sergeant Corsi his extension, and I was responding to the CFO through Sergeant Corsi. That's what actually transpired in this case.
Commissioner, you're not a junior employee who just follows what the CFO chooses to do, even when it is irregular and maybe even unlawful. You're a senior, you hold a senior position, Deputy Commissioner. You realize you must have known that, in fact, let me say, you must have known that Sergeant Nkosi has no business being involved in this by the CFO, if he's involved by the CFO. You must have known that. A person at your level of seniority, why did you not choose to deal directly with the CFO when you saw, yes, when he first involved Sergeant Nkosi, you who has the power and status to deal with him directly, why did you not decide to deal with him directly? You're not a junior employee in this picture who is afraid of the CFO unless you tell us that you were afraid to upset the CFO for whatever reason. But I want to assume that you didn't have that kind of problem. You have the authority to deal directly with the CFO. Why did you not give those answers directly to the CFO? Because you are improperly dealing with city affairs through Sergeant Nkosi, and there's no debating that. It's simply improper to involve Sergeant Nkosi in this. You must have known that. Why did you choose to continue anyway?
Thanks, Commissioner. I did not choose Commissioner out of my own I know that if you'll go to, in most instances, if you go to file 1 in page 146, Commissioner, file 146,
Yes.
on the 6th of March, I was requested to provide, feedback by the Chief's office around this matter of payment of these service providers. In most instances, Commissioner, I'll request my office that we need to respect the higher offices so that I give feedback to my chief, and if the chief need to give feedback to the CM or the CFO or whatever, he'll do so that I can maintain that chain of command rather than I communicate direct with either send information to the CM or the CFO. And I've adopted this, and I agree with you to say in this instance also, I think I might have either decided to get either contact of the CFO, but he made Sergeant Kosi an extension that, I must respond to on his questions and so forth, which became, a very unfortunate situation that transpired.
Do you accept that it was improper for you and the CFO to involve Sergeant Kosi in this discussion about resolving these invoices?
Not me, Commissioner. He was involved by the CFO.
Do you accept that it's improper for the CFO to have dealt with this issue involving Sergeant Kosi?
He could have either, referred me to his PA or
No,
whoever.
Deputy Commissioner, I'm asking you a direct answer. It becomes easier when you answer directly. Do you accept that it was improper for the CFO to involve Sergeant Kosi in resolving the issue of the unpaid invoices with you?
It should not have happened, Commissioner.
You accept it's improper. Do you have a difficulty with conceding that it is improper?
To say it should not have happened.
Do you have a difficulty in accepting and conceding that it was improper?
I don't want to bind him.
No, I'm not
Commissioner,
asking you to bind him. I'm asking you to comment on the facts. Facts are the CFO and you were dealing with a city matter through Sergeant Kosi, involving Sergeant Kosi in it. That's a fact. Now I'm asking you, do you accept, and your explanation is, Sergeant Kosi was involved by the CFO, not by you, so I'm happy to break it down. Do you accept that involving Sergeant Kosi, a member of the public, in resolving a payment issue with a service provider, that it was improper for Sergeant Kosi to be involved in this? You can say no. There are only two possible answers. Only two possible answers. Your answer is either no, it wasn't improper, or it was improper, and it doesn't require an explanation.
I wouldn't use the improper, Commissioner. I'll say it was incorrect maybe for the CFO to have involved Sergeant Kosi from the onset on this matter.
Do you accept that it was improper for you to respond to the CFO through Sergeant Kosi? He is a member of the public. Do you accept that?
No, Commissioner. I was responding to the CFO because he made Sergeant Kosi his extension.
So to involve a member, you involving a member of the public in resolving a payment issue, you say that was proper to do. that you involved Sergeant Nkosi?
I did not involve Sergeant Gosi. He was
That you
the
communicate-
CFO's extension commission.
So that you communicated through Sergeant Nkosi to the CFO, you say that was proper. There was nothing wrong with that.
I was a responding commissioner to the CFO.
Thank
I
you.
never communicated to the
Thank you.
Sergeant Gosi.
Let us adjourn and resume at 11:45. Yes, Mr. Chaselson.
Thank you, Chair. I want to pick up on page 435. This is after the events of 5 and 6 March. And there, on the 23rd of March at 8:05 p.m., you send Sergeant Nkosi a message, and you say, "Afternoon, Captain." Sorry, do you have page 435?
I have it, let's see.
You say, "Afternoon, Captain. I trust you are well and your family. I thought we will meet up today so that I could get clarity on something kuMfowethu. Kane called me on Friday and asked if the Gubis want to meet up with me on Saturday. I then pushed the meeting to Monday with a view of getting direction from kuMfowethu first today. Please check with him on this and his advice, if I should go or drop them. I don't want to make a mistake on such matters because I believe the center should be one." You see that message?
Correct, SC.
Can you explain what you were asking Sergeant Nkosi to do here and what the context for it was?
Thanks, SC. I think I was asking here Sergeant Nkosi because I know the CFO, he has got a relationship with Sergeant Nkosi, and when he was requesting me on the 4th of March, he was with Sergeant Nkosi regarding the outstanding payment of Gubis. So I was surprised why should they want to have a meeting with me, because I know that they were liaising with the CFO in this matter.
So you understood Kane's call with you to mean that Gubis want to speak to you about outstanding payments?
Correct.
And you wouldn't meet with Gubis because you wanted first to speak to the CFO to find out what his attitude was to a claim from Gubis for outstanding payments?
Correct. To say they had a meeting with him, they raised this matter with him. I know that, Mr. Mahlangu, called him as he indicated to me, so why wouldn't he call him again in this regard?
Now, who's Mr. Mahlangu? Is that Mr. Calvin Mahlangu?
Correct.
He's a director of Gubis.
Correct.
And when did Mr. Mahlangu indicate to you that he had called the CFO?
I'm saying that's what the CFO indicated to me on the 4th of March when he was requesting my intervention.
So before your intervention on the 4th and the 5th, on the 5th and the 6th,
Yes.
you knew that Calvin Mahlangu had called the CFO on the 4th?
That's what he said when he called me, CFO.
Yes. Was it the CFO who called you or Sergeant Nkosi?
Sergeant Nkosi was with the CFO when I spoke to the CFO.
And that was pursuant to the call that Sergeant Nkosi made to you?
Correct.
Now, they told you Calvin Mahlangu of Gubis is complaining about non-payment of invoices.
That's correct.
Now, by this stage, the invoices had all been paid except for the June 2024 invoice, which was from the previous financial year.
Correct.
And what did Kane and Mpofu tell you that Gubis wanted to talk to you about?
It was in relation to that outstanding invoice.
The June invoice?
Correct.
You again, well, you this time, choose to involve Sergeant Nkosi yourself. You don't go direct to the CFO. You go to him through Sergeant Nkosi.
That's correct, SC.
Why?
It's because I know he has a relationship with the CFO, and when he called me, he used Sergeant Nkosi, and he has been speaking to me, as you could have seen, with regard to the feedback of payment through Sergeant Nkosi.
So, although it's now 2 weeks later, you still think that it's appropriate to use Sergeant Nkosi to communicate with the CFO rather than speaking to the CFO directly?
That's how I took it at that particular time, because the CFO never asked for my contact numbers either to speak to me, and he's senior to me. I wouldn't just go and ask for his contact numbers.
You wouldn't ask for the contact numbers of the CFO. You're the in Tshwane. You don't want to speak to the CFO directly.
They're in meetings, when we are in meetings at MCAM's meeting or budget meetings and so forth, we speak at that level, but not on through phones and so forth.
Why can't you just email him?
You are contradicting what you said last week. I'm very sorry, Mr. Chaskasin. You are contradicting what you said last week. Last week you said you accept that it was a matter of relative ease for you to get the contact details of the CFO. But you chose this Nkosi route to the CFO purely because you found it convenient. That had nothing to do with you not wanting to contact somebody who is senior to you. Do you recall that?
I don't recall that.
Well, I tell you, that was your testimony.
I don't recall that.
Yes, Mr. Chaskasin.
Was it not relatively easy for you to contact the CFO directly?
Under normal circumstances, that could have been that way, but in most instances, even myself, if I don't have your contact number, it wouldn't be easy for me to pick up that call when you call me.
Why don't you just email him? You've already pushed the meeting into the following week. You get called by Kane on Friday. You've arranged for the meeting to be postponed to Monday. Why don't you just email him?
Since I knew that he has got frequent meetings with Nkosi, or they are seeing each other, or they are talking together, I felt it could be an easiest way for me to check with Sergeant Nkosi.
Deputy Chief, you must have assumed that they are communicating on a daily basis for you to send this message through Sergeant Nkosi. Because if they were only communicating once a week or seeing each other once a week, your message would be delayed by a week. So you sending it through Sergeant Nkosi must mean you knew or you assumed that they are communicating on a daily basis, so that if you send a message to Sergeant Nkosi, it will immediately get through to the CFO.
I know that they are brothers, they talk frequently.
On a daily basis?
I'm not sure on a daily, but they speak frequently, Commissioner.
But you understand my point, that if they only spoke once a week or after 2 weeks, your message would be delayed.
Much as I indicate, they frequently speak.
Thanks.
Now, you say, I don't want to make a mistake on such matters because I believe the center should be one. What did you mean there?
I mean, the initial approach of Mr. Mahlangu was to speak to the CFO, so I find it amazing that why would he drop the ball to the lower level now, want to engage with me on such matters.
What do you mean the center should be one?
When I said the center should be one, it means communication lines. They should maintain the same communication lines that, they have started.
What is the appropriate communication line in relation to an unpaid invoice? Is one supposed to go straight to the CFO?
No, that's not what it's supposed to happen.
What is supposed to happen?
In this instance, if they were not, paid, they were supposed to have been gone to Director Malachi because they deal with Director Malachi on a daily basis, and either, escalate the matter to the Director Finance. If they don't get joy, then escalate it to myself, to the chief in that sequence.
So why didn't you say to Kane the correct procedure is to go to Director Malachi?
In this case, as they have already started their communication with the CFO, and we didn't know what transpired in their discussions that I should end up, being part of that. They wouldn't sometimes relate the entire things as they have spoken with the CFO.
So because they were able to get to the CFO out of sequence or out of procedure on the 4th of March, you now took the attitude that they must always go first to the CFO.
On this matter of payment, they could have raised it. They've raised it initially with him. They must, I think, finish that matter with the CFO. That was my approach in this instance.
And what was the matter of payment that Kane explained to you they needed to address?
One was the issue of the outstanding invoice, as I indicated that invoice need a report, a post-facto report that must